During the wedding ceremony, when it came to the ring exchange link, a young girl with a big belly suddenly appeared. She stared directly at me and said, "I am his true love. You are not qualified to marry him." I cheerfully stuffed the bouquet into her hands and said, "Really? Then you marry him." So I announced the cancellation of the engagement on the spot and changed the bride. She didn't know. This was a trap that I had spent 2 years digging. Her making a scene at the wedding was the first step for me to send them to hell. My ring finger was pinched so painfully that Vince still hadn't put the wedding ring on my hand. He turned his head to look in the direction of the door and remained motionless. The crowd followed his gaze and looked back one after another, instantly becoming restless. A young girl in a wedding dress was seen walking gracefully towards the center of the stage, holding up her skirt. Then she pushed the groom away and stared directly at me and said, "I am his true love. You are not qualified to marry him. His bride can only be me." The crowd was in an uproar. Everyone stared at me. I slowly took off my veil and stuffed it together with the bouquet into her hands. Smiling, I said to her, "Really? Since you are his true love, then you marry him." After saying that, I took the host's microphone and faced the crowd, officially announcing the cancellation of the engagement. I have had an engagement with Mr. Vince, the president of the Vince family group since childhood. But this is not because we are in love with each other. It is because my mother once saved him. Although I love him, and have always wanted to marry him, the person he loves is not me. I can only be forced to withdraw and help SB fulfill them. From now on, my engagement with him is no longer valid. I sincerely wish them happiness. After returning the microphone to the host, Vince grabbed my wrist and growled, "Arya, what are you doing?" I smiled calmly at him and said, "Helping you and your true love. Don't you thank me?" "You." He was speechless. At this time, the media reporters swarmed forward. "General Manager Vince, how could there be 2 brides at your wedding? What's going on? Can you tell us? I heard that the Vince family group plans to go public soon. Will the wedding incident have an impact on this? It is rumored outside that you have caused a lot of romantic debts and are no longer interested in the affairs of the group. Is it true?" Vince panicked and said angrily to the crowd, "Shut up. All of you shut up. Who let you in? Get out." The girl in the wedding dress tried to pull him forward but was accidentally pushed to the ground by him. The girl screamed. Looking down again, blood all over the ground came into view. The girl covered her stomach and said with a pale face, "Vince. The child. Our child." "What? You are pregnant? This. Get out of the way. Everyone get out of the way." Vince picked up the girl by the waist and rushed out. The reporters chased after him with cameras on their shoulders. I was secretly delighted in my heart and was very satisfied with their performance. So I dialed the phone and said to the person on the other end, "Money is not a problem. Do things beautifully. Don't worry. General Manager Arya. This time it will be difficult for the Vince family group to turn around." "Vince. You don't know. Do you? I have been waiting for this moment for a long time. You think you have hidden your mistress perfectly. But little do you know that from the very beginning, you have fallen into the trap I dug. And her making a scene at the wedding according to my plan is the first step for me to send you to hell." After changing out of the wedding dress and driving to the cemetery, a light rain was falling at this time. I stood in front of my mother's tombstone with a black umbrella and said to her, "The child you risked your life to save back, then has finally let me down. If I could choose, I would rather you didn't save him. But it doesn't matter. I will make him pay with his life. My mother died because she saved Vince. One summer more than 10 years ago, Vince came to my house to play. A fire broke out unexpectedly. My mother used her last bit of strength to push him out. But she herself was buried in the fire. The last words she said were, 'Vince, take good care of Arya for Auntie.' Vince pulled my hand and ran out. We survived. But my mother never came out again. This incident was widely reported and caused a sensation. Vince and I are childhood sweethearts, and have had an engagement since childhood. After this incident, his family was better to me than ever before. Until my family went bankrupt. My father jumped off a building and committed suicide. I became an orphan with no relatives. From then on, the Arya family fell from heaven to hell and was looked down upon. Vince's family said in front of people that they would definitely be responsible for me. But behind people's backs, they never took me seriously. They also said implicitly and explicitly that I was unlucky. Only then did I understand that their previous kindness to me was all fake. At first, Vince would protect me and tell me, "From now on, I will be your relative." Later, he didn't protect me anymore. Because he had someone new he wanted to protect. This person is Jocelyn, who made a scene at our wedding. But they didn't know that I had known Jocelyn for a long time. She is a student I sponsored. I arranged for her to work by Vince's side. But under my nose, she stole him away. At first, they just dated secretly. Later, seeing that I couldn't do anything to him, they became more and more blatant. I asked him why. He just said casually, "I only promised to marry you. I didn't promise to love you forever. You can't ask for too much. Our family has been good enough to you all these years." Vince's mother watched all this happen but advised me infuriately, "Be more generous. Men are all like this." What really made me determined to put them to death was after an argument. Vince said to me, "Don't bring up your mother again. Okay?" I didn't ask her to save me. She did it willingly. My heart was instantly clenched. I suddenly understood why he and Jocelyn came together. They are the same kind of people. Jocelyn also said something similar to me. "I didn't ask you to sponsor me. Why do you ask so much of me?" Including Vince's mother also said privately, "Whose fault is it that she has a short life? If it weren't for the need to explain to the outside world, who would want to raise Arya? That jinx?" From then on, my hatred for them took root in my heart. I began to formulate a revenge plan. But on the surface, I will put on an air of resignation. No matter how they bully or insult me, I remain indifferent. I even take better care of Vince's mother and manage the company more attentively than ever. As a result, people around me gossip behind my back from time to time, thinking that I am too spineless. The general manager of Arya is obviously excellent. Why is she so muddled in her feelings? That's right. What's the use of becoming Mrs. Vince by marrying into Vince's family? The general manager Vince doesn't love her at all. Isn't she still enduring humiliation all her life? I ignored them and chose a time to meet Jocelyn. I asked her, "Why must it be Vince?" Her answer to this was, "Love is love. There are not so many whys." I asked again, "Do you have even a hint of guilt towards me?" "No." She didn't hesitate at all. "Because he doesn't love you. He said that being with you is only for repaying a kindness. If your mother hadn't saved him, he couldn't be with you. Don't you mind being a third party, who can't be exposed all your life? You know, the person he marries can only be me." She subconsciously touched her lower abdomen and said stubbornly, "Not necessarily. It seems she is pregnant. The time is ripe." Vince and Vince's mother haven't returned from the hospital yet. I am at home alone enjoying my achievements. The hot search exploded easily. Major media directly restored the wedding scene. At this time, the scandal of the president of the Vince family group is known all over the internet. The scandals of wealthy families are no less popular than those in the entertainment industry. Moreover, someone has already recognized the girl who made a scene at the wedding as Jocelyn, a once very popular little star. There were paparazzi who once photographed that she was very close to Vince, the president of the Vince family group. It was also said that she was willing to get pregnant before marriage. Now it has been confirmed that this is true. Now, I can start preparing for the next step. The good show is still to come. Just as I took out my phone to make a call, Vince's mother's call suddenly came in. She said in a panic, "Arya, can you come to the hospital first? Those reporters are all blocking the hospital entrance and leaving no way out." "Of course not. What I want is for you to die." But now is not the time to show my cards. I can only comfort her patiently and say, Auntie, don't worry. Take care of yourself. I'll go there right away. Since I have been invited, there is no reason not to join in this excitement. After all, I am going to check my labor results. When I arrived at the hospital, the reporters all thrust their microphones at me. General Manager Arya. Do you know that General Manager Vince has an affair with Miss Jocelyn from the entertainment industry? How long have they been together? It is said that your engagement was set when you were young. In the face of such an event, what are your plans for the future? The Vince family group is managed by you and General Manager Vince. If the engagement is cancelled, will it affect the development of the Vince family group? Will the listing plan of the Vince family group be postponed because of this incident? General Manager Arya. Please say a few words. I faced them and said calmly, please be patient. I am very grateful for everyone's attention to us and the Vince family group. But now Miss Jocelyn hasn't woken up yet. Saving people is the most urgent thing. As for other things, there is nothing to tell for the time being. Sorry. Excuse me. Everyone go back first. I turned and walked towards the hospital. They all rushed up and were stopped by the security guards in time. During this period, I heard someone say, why did she come to the hospital and still care about the mistress? This is the pattern of the original wife. In order to marry into a wealthy family, she can endure anything. What a ruthless woman. Hearing these, my heart is already without waves. Being tied to Vince is extremely humiliating. Everyone is watching my jokes and looking at me with contempt. But I never mind. Because making him love me is not my purpose. My purpose is to make him die. Arya, you are here. Vince's mother saw me first. She wiped away her tears and came towards me. I'm sorry. I apologize to you on behalf of Vince. I didn't expect the wedding to turn out like this. I patted the back of her hand to comfort her. Auntie, I'm fine. How is Miss Jocelyn? She sighed. She is still in rescue for the moment. The child is definitely lost. Her tone seemed very sad. After all, this is her own grandson. Vince was sitting on a bench in the corridor, with his head deeply bowed. He never looked at me. I took the initiative to comfort him, but he pushed me away in disgust. Arya, did you do it on purpose? I looked innocent and said, on purpose for what? Everyone knows that we have an engagement. Wouldn't it be a slap in the face if you break off the engagement in public? I know you hate me and hate Jocelyn, but there is no need. Vince. I interrupted him harshly. Please make it clear. It was she who made a scene at the wedding. Not me. It was you who pushed her down. Not me. I am the victim in this whole incident. Seeing that I was emotional, Vince's mother scolded Vince. Talk to Arya icily. Vince is a famous filial son, and a typical mama's boy. He can ignore anyone's words. But he is obedient only to his mother. After all, Vince's father died early, and the mother and son have depended on each other for many years. It is precisely because of this that I have Vince's mother firmly in my control. If I make her happy, half of the matter is done. Since I took power in the company, she has been more and more polite to me. In the past, in this situation, she might have hit me long ago. How dare you talk to my son like this? Who gave you the courage? This was her classic line in the past. Now she has to look at my face and is afraid of offending me. I pretended to take a deep breath and sat down. I said calmly, Vince, I don't want to tie you up with the engagement for a lifetime. If you love her, marry her. If you don't love me, draw a clear line from me. I am very tired and don't want to continue to entangle with you. Arya, you. Just as he was about to say something, the door of the operating room suddenly opened. He got up abruptly and asked, Doctor, how is she? The doctor took off his mask and said, the child is not saved. The adult is temporarily out of life danger. But what? But she can't have children anymore. After the doctor finished speaking, he nodded politely at him and left. Vince murmured in disbelief. How could this be? Suddenly, his cell phone rang. Annoyed, he hung up. Then my cell phone rang. Calculating the time. Most likely the bomb left in the company had exploded. Sure enough. After answering, the person on the other end said in a panic. General Manager Raria. The company has been inspected by the tax bureau. You and General Manager Vince need to come back immediately. What's wrong? Vince's mother asked when she saw my unusual expression. It's the company. Something has happened to the company. Vince. This is just the beginning. Greater retribution lies ahead. Vince visibly panicked. All the sadness and remorse from earlier were gone. This was what he truly worried and feared. For someone like him. He won't feel pain until his foundation is shaken. After Vince was taken away by the tax officials, shareholders made a scene at the company entrance, clamoring to withdraw their shares. The stock price plummeted, and it was probably impossible to turn the situation around. The shareholders took advantage of the chaos to demand Vince's resignation, pointing directly at his improper management. Over the years, Vince blindly invested money in the entertainment industry. Many of the projects he invested in all lost money. But he still held on to a fluke mentality, and became bolder. Jocelyn is just one of the little stars he promotes. There are many others. His film and television company, in order to evade taxes and evade tax payments, signed yin-yang contracts. It was only a matter of time before the scandal was exposed. It's just that he didn't expect this day to come so soon. Of course he couldn't think of it because I am the mastermind behind it. In his eyes, I have exhausted myself for the company over the years, and endured humiliation in front of him all for the identity of Mrs. Vince. Once the Vince family group is destroyed, being Mrs. Vince is meaningless. So I am the last person he would suspect. This is exactly the effect I want. Only when he relaxes his guard can I arrange my plans with peace of mind. This tax inspection is just a warning to him. This is not the end. This is just the beginning. His retribution has just begun. Arya. Vince's mother suddenly came to me and discussed countermeasures with me. Do you know about the tax matter? Vince has always been cautious in doing things. How could this happen this time? Don't worry for now. It's just under investigation and there is no result yet. I'm afraid this time it's extremely dangerous. After saying that, she sighed deeply and then continued. Now that things have come to this point, I won't hide it from you anymore. In fact, I already knew about his affair with Jocelyn. I advised him not to act recklessly. But he didn't listen. But why did Jocelyn suddenly appear at the wedding scene? It was clearly agreed before. She stopped talking and looked at me with embarrassment. I'm sorry. Arya. Auntie is sorry for you. But she is pregnant with Vince's child. The child is innocent. So I asked him to hide it from you first. If Jocelyn's child is born safely, what are your plans? Marry her or? Of course it's marrying you. She interrupted me and explained in a panic. Your engagement with Vince cannot be shaken by anyone. I only recognize you as my daughter-in-law. I sneered inwardly. So what if it can't be shaken? It doesn't prevent him from having many wives and concubines at all. Looking at her face at this moment, I felt extremely disgusted. Although she is an elder, she is really as hypocritical as Vince. Regarding this matter of Jocelyn, I once heard her say to Vince with my own ears, Jocelyn is pregnant with our Vince family's child. We must keep it no matter what. What if Arya finds out? She is an orphan. Our Vince family has been kind enough to raise her for so many years. Vince replied casually. Mom, don't worry. I have a sense of propriety in this matter. That's it. I watched helplessly as Vince kept Jocelyn in a villa in the suburbs, taking good care of her with delicious food and drink, and desperately pouring money and resources into her, turning her from an ordinary college student into a popular little star. I watched helplessly as they were tender and affectionate, extremely loving, and even had a child. Thinking of these things at this moment, I was completely calm inside. Auntie. Vincent, I have broken off our engagement. Whether you recognize me as your daughter-in-law, not is already meaningless. The reason I am still in the company is that the work has not been handed over yet. Wait for Vince to come back. Wait for Vince to come back and I will let him apologize to you. Before I could finish, she interrupted me. Don't worry. He listens to me in everything. With me here, he dare not marry you. But now the problem is that I don't care whether he marries me or not anymore. Somewhat speechless. But I just smiled and said nothing. Thinking carefully, Vince's mother's attitude towards me probably started to change when I gradually showed my business talent. When I closed deal after deal with big clients. She even said to Vince privately, Arya is talented in business. She is worthy of being the daughter of the Arya family. If you had married her earlier, it would be very beneficial for the group's development. At that time, I knew that for a girl to gain a foothold in the society and earn true respect from others, there is no other way but to be strong herself. In fact, after my parents passed away one after another, very few people mentioned the Arya family anymore. And very few people remembered that I was once a daughter of a wealthy family. This is actually a good thing for me. They don't know that after the Arya family group went bankrupt, I secretly gathered the group's veterans and registered a new company. No one knows that I am the real boss behind this company. After learning that Jocelyn was pregnant, I deliberately advanced the wedding date. Originally, Vince didn't agree. He was afraid that Jocelyn would be stimulated. I directly took a step back to advance and set him up in front of Vince's mother. Just break off the engagement. He probably already has someone else in his heart. Vince's mother pretended to have a heart attack on the same day and forced Vince to marry me. Because the Vince family group can't do without me now, coupled with the fact that my mother died to save Vince. Many people know about it. She is afraid of being criticized. Vince had to agree because Vince's mother has heart disease. Every time she pretends to have a relapse, Vince will obey her every word. The quick-acting heart-saving pills she always carries with her always packed in her bag by me. I take care of her too meticulously. She has long been used to this. Regarding Jocelyn, the solution she finally came up with is, first, serve her delicious food and drinks outside. Let her give birth to the child smoothly. Then take the child, and leave her. Give her a sum of money and make her disappear. This is also the reason why Jocelyn was surprised when she appeared at the wedding scene. Obviously she had already signed the agreement. How could it suddenly get out of control? Of course. It's because I intervened. Just this point. She may never know. It took me a long time to infiltrate the Vince family group and gain their trust. They thought that I worked so hard to marry into the Vince family early. But my real purpose is to collect as much evidence as possible. Investigate the truth. And then catch them all in one go. The Vince family group has a large business. It's not so easy to destroy it. Only by making internal problems first can it be uprooted. Vince probably doesn't know that many of the yin-yang contracts he signed were facilitated by me. Even some minor celebrities were personally sent to him by me. Know yourself and know your enemy. And you will never be defeated. After so many years of getting along day and night, no one knows him better than I do. Originally, it was just a plan. Jocelyn's pregnancy advanced the whole plan and also made the whole plan simpler. Because she is stupid. Not only stupid but also extremely unstable emotionally. Very useful. As soon as I stimulate her a little, she will immediately make a scene with Vince. The reason why she dared to appear at the wedding is that she was sure that Vince and Vince's mother would definitely choose her. I got someone to hint to her that Vince's mother really wants to hold a grandson, and because of my physical problems, I can't give birth. Only then did she firmly believe that I am not her opponent. Vince's wife will definitely be her. But she doesn't know that this is a trap I set up long ago. If she doesn't come to make a scene, my plan cannot continue. She doesn't even know that her child can't be saved at all. Her progesterone is low in the early pregnancy. The medicine she took has already been tampered with by me in secret. Even if Vince didn't push her down in public and make her fall hard, her child would have to be miscarried. As for not being able to give birth anymore in the future, it's just an extra gift. During the time when Vince was taken away for investigation, I became the pillar of the group. Vince's mother also relied on me more and more. She asked me what to do next. I could only tell her honestly, wait for the investigation results. In fact, the investigation results are obvious. Make up the taxes and then be sentenced for a few years as appropriate. But this is too cheap for him. I want to make things more interesting. So I joined forces with the major shareholders inside the group to quietly transfer the business. Several major customers also disappeared silently. By the time Vince comes out, the group has already become a mess and there is no way to save it. Calculating the time, Jocelyn should have recovered almost by now. It's time for her to come and settle scores with me. Sure enough, she appeared in front of me before long. At that time, I was watering the Sansevieria on the office desk. She rushed in angrily. The assistant couldn't stop her at all. I motioned for her to call Vince's mother and let her step down. Miss Jocelyn, long time no see. How is your physical recovery? I sized her up and spoke first. Don't pretend. My child is gone. I can't give birth anymore in the future. You must be very proud, right? What are you talking about? What does this have to do with me? With red eyes, she said, I know everything. You deliberately set me up and made me make a scene at the wedding. You are so cruel. Do you have evidence? Welcome to sue me. You. She was already furious. No wonder Vince doesn't love you. A woman like you doesn't deserve to be loved. I shrugged infuriately and provoked her. Do you believe that in the current situation, I just need to say a word to Vince, and he will abandon you like garbage? And I thought for a moment, and continued. Whether you can survive in the entertainment industry still depends on my mood. I am a major shareholder of the film and television company you signed with. Please be humble in front of me from now on. She was so angry that her face turned red. She raised her hand to hit me, but was stopped in time by Vince's mother and was slapped instead. Something so vulgar. How dare you come to the company and make trouble? Jocelyn covered her face, looking incredulous. She must not understand how the old lady of the Vince family who used to protect her so much suddenly changed her attitude. In fact, it's very simple. Vince's mother protected her before because she was pregnant with Vince's child. Now that the child is gone and the bargaining chip is gone, her value is soured. In addition, the Vince family group is still supported by me now. She dare not offend me. If it weren't for me, her son might not be able to get out. Young girls like Jocelyn probably don't understand that the essence of interpersonal communication is actually an equal exchange. If you are useless, others will not really respect you. External things like beauty, figure, and temperament will become your plus points. But if you don't have wisdom, ability, or capital, then it's only a matter of time before others abandon you. Love is the same. In the end, love doesn't depend on how deep the affection is, but on whether this person has a conscience. And conscience is the scarcest thing and ultimately unreliable. What can be relied on is only oneself from beginning to end. According to the people in the company, Jocelyn lost her temper after she went back. Now no one has made appointments with her for dramas anymore. The endorsements she signed before have also been terminated one after another. She will also face huge liquidated damages. After all, at this time, she is surrounded by scandals and her reputation is completely ruined. In a short period of time, she has gone from a popular female star to a mistress that everyone shouts at. Every time she turns on her phone, she can see various taunts from netizens. Jocelyn is really delusional. She still thinks she can marry into a wealthy family and become Mrs. Vince. That's right. How could the Vince family allow someone like her to enter? Even if her child is born, it's still an illegitimate child and vulgar. If I were her, I would hide and not go out. It's embarrassing. But the fiancé of General Manager Vince is really powerful. Do you think General Manager Vince's going in has anything to do with her? Who knows? Anyway, she doesn't seem simple. About a week later, I was calculating how many cards I still had in my hand that hadn't been played. Suddenly, the assistant rushed in and said, "General Manager Arya, something has happened." I met her gaze in motion for her to continue. "Jocelyn. She committed suicide by cutting her wrist." She committed suicide. Why are you panicking? What does this have to do with us? I chuckled inferently. Evidence? Not really. Well, then, could it be that I made her a mistress? I took a small sip of the coffee in front of me and continued. Don't worry. She is mostly pretending. If I'm not mistaken, she should still be in rescue right now. How do you know? She looked puzzled. Let's go. I didn't answer her. Instead, I picked up my bag and said, let's go to the hospital and meet her. It was this trip to the hospital that I discovered a big secret of Jocelyn and directly formulated the last step of the plan. All the twists and turns in the middle are omitted. Her attending physician said that she had very severe depression and hereditary mental illness in her family. She had been receiving treatment before. I don't know why she suddenly stopped taking medicine during this period. Her situation is very dangerous now. Someone needs to keep an eye on her all the time and she can't be stimulated anymore. I asked him, what will happen if she is stimulated? The doctor hesitated for a moment and said, it will cost lives. That's great. I was secretly delighted. Vince should be back soon. Then let him stimulate her and they will both die. When Vince returned and saw that the Vince family group was in a mess, he was extremely devastated. He now needs to make up for the huge amount of tax that was missed. But the group is on the verge of bankruptcy and can't afford the money. Originally, I thought that after he came back, I would continue to play the cards in my hand and sentence him to 10 or 8 years, and let him stay in prison until he rots. But now I have changed my plan. He began to suspect that I was behind the hollowing out of the group and suspected that those yin-yang contracts in the past were also signed by him intentionally because of me. But he had no evidence, and could only lose his temper with me. He seriously asked me, Arya, why do you have such a great hatred for me? Just because of Jocelyn? Yes, I said without changing my expression. Just because of Jocelyn. Since I still love you, I must not be able to accept your betrayal. Her appearance has humiliated me. How can I not hate? He was silent for a long time. After a long time, he looked up at me and said, just ruining a wedding. I can make it up to you and I can stop contacting Jocelyn. Are you serious? Hope lit up in my eyes. Then it depends on your performance. After saying this, I was about to leave. Suddenly he called out to me, are you the person behind the Foos Group? I was shocked. The Foos Group is currently the biggest competitor of the Vince family group. After many customers terminated their cooperation with the Vince family, they all turned to the Foos. Does he already know? Well, it's time for him to know. He then said, your mother's surname is Fu, and in this group, there are some familiar faces. They are exactly the people from the Arya family before. I shrugged inferently and motioned for him to continue. Arya, are you the person behind it? Are you also the one who reported the tax problems of the Vince family group? You are jealous of Jocelyn and want to retaliate against me. At this point, he said with some pride and a smile, I really didn't expect that a woman could be so jealous. I didn't answer him directly. I just told him, this is not important. What's important is that you are already in a difficult situation. If you want me to help you, solve Jocelyn's problem first. Not long after I left, he went to find Jocelyn. At this time, Jocelyn had just been rescued and was in an unstable mood. It was really unwise for him to break up at this juncture. But what I want is for him to be unwise. Sure enough, not long after Vince left, the person I planted beside Jocelyn came to inform me. Jocelyn asked Vince to meet at 6 o'clock in the evening on Sunday at the place where they had their first date. It's a bit remote. It's in a homestay on the mountain. Did Vince agree? Yes. Jocelyn threatened him. If he didn't agree, she would expose him and say that he had unspoken rules with herself. Not only her, but also many other female models and female stars. I took a deep breath. These two people biting each other is quite exciting. I think that Jocelyn chose to meet him here probably hoping to evoke his memories and reconsider their relationship. After all, Vince is a person who is quite nostalgic. If Vince insists on breaking up, it's hard to say whether he can come down the mountain alive. But I know that he will definitely insist on breaking up. And he definitely can't come down the mountain alive. Sunday finally came. Before Vince went to see Jocelyn for the last time, he came to me first. He seriously asked me if we could start over. He said, "Arya, separating from Jocelyn is not only for you to help me, but also because after experiencing these, I have completely awakened. During this time, I remembered many things. Things from our childhood. I really loved you and I really wanted to marry you. Just later, I don't know how it became. Probably because you are too accommodating to me. You know, those who are loved are fearless. Once I subconsciously believe that you can't leave me, I will let myself do evil. In fact, what's wrong with you?" I couldn't listen anymore and interrupted him sharply. "Vince, what on earth do you want to express? Whether to forgive you depends not on what you say but on what you do. If you want to make up, cut off all your affairs outside first." He vowed. "I will prove it to you with actions in the future." I sneered and turned to leave, silently saying in my heart, "There is no future. Farewell forever, Vince." At this time, I suddenly received a call from Vince's mother. She invited me to have dinner, and said that she apologized to me on behalf of her son Vince and also celebrated in advance that Vince and I were as good as ever. I readily agreed. A good show is only enjoyable when watched together. The dinner was arranged in a private room of a certain 5-star hotel. There were only me and Vince's mother. She enthusiastically served me dishes and chattered, but it was really a blessing for the Vince family to have me. I smiled without saying a word and kept an eye on the movement of my mobile phone at all times, especially after 6 o'clock. At about 7 o'clock, Vince's mother received a call. As soon as she answered it, her expression froze. My intuition told me that this moment had finally come. It still came ahead of schedule. I looked at her with concern. Just as I was about to ask her what was wrong, the mobile phone in her hand dropped with a thud and she fell to the ground, starting to convulse. She was having a heart attack. I was so frightened that I cried out involuntarily, "Auntie, what's wrong with you? Don't scare me." "My bag. In the bag, there are medicines. Hurry up." "Okay." I quickly ran to the sofa, picked up her bag, and looked for her quick-acting heart-saving pills. Unfortunately, it was empty inside. I threw the empty bottle away impatiently, picked up my mobile phone and dialed. Then I said to her lying on the ground, "Auntie, hold on for a while. I'll go call for help now." After going out, I accidentally bumped into a waiter who was about to serve dishes. The plate shattered with a sound, and my hand was instantly cut. Blood gushed out uncontrollably. I cried out in pain. The other person apologized repeatedly, and many people looked at us. The best rescue time for heart disease is about 6 minutes. Every minute and every second determines life and death. Although I hate her, I never thought of taking her life at this time. I was so nervous that even my voice began to tremble. "Don't worry about me first. Someone in the innermost private room is having a heart attack. Ask if there is any customer in the restaurant who is a doctor." I stood up with difficulty. Hearing this, they ran towards the innermost private room. Fortunately, there happened to be a customer in the restaurant who was studying medicine. He arrived in the first time and gave first aid to Vince's mother. He held on until the ambulance arrived. However, in the end, she was overly worried and in a trance, and still didn't make it. Of course I know why Vince's mother suddenly had a heart attack. because his beloved son Vince unfortunately fell off a cliff and died on the spot while driving on the mountain road, together with his lover Jocelyn in the passenger seat. She also died. According to the police report, a man and a woman had an argument on the way. The woman suddenly lost control of her emotions and grabbed the steering wheel violently. The car rushed straight down at the bend. The woman has mental illness. After the driving recorder was repaired, part of the conversation at that time was restored. Probably Jocelyn said that everything was designed by me, and that my purpose was to kill her. Vince didn't believe it, and said that I wasn't such a person. He also said that he would definitely break up with her and hoped that she wouldn't be delusional about marrying him. Jocelyn was heartbroken, thinking of the child she had lost, thinking that she could no longer have children for the rest of her life, thinking of the kindness Vince had shown her, the hope he had given her, and the betrayal, harm, and despair he had brought her now. She finally couldn't bear it and completely erupted. A mental illness may only take a moment. When you stimulate a certain nerve of hers, she will completely lose control. So she chose to die with Vince. The police came to talk to me according to the restored part of the conversation. I sorted out the relationship among myself, Vince, and Jocelyn again, and denied all the doubts they mentioned. After all, it's just her one-sided statement without evidence. Moreover, this is still a one-sided statement of a mental patient. In the end, they attributed the deaths of the two to an accident. There was a heated debate online. Some people said that this is retribution in this life and that they brought it on themselves, which is very satisfying. Some people suspected that there was someone deliberately framing them. When I successfully invested and revived Vince's family group and became the president myself, this voice was amplified. But I don't care anymore. Because at this time, I am just a rich woman who has just lost her fiancé. Moreover, at my fiancé's funeral, I cried so sadly. People who saw me said, "General Manager Raria is really a love-struck fool." Vince's general manager treated her like that when he was alive. But she still can't forget him. After all, in their perception, I am just that stupid woman who is unwilling to let go even when she is abandoned and at the wedding scene and insists on marrying into Vince's family. After these spread out, the rumors outside were dispelled without attack. More people sympathize with me. After Vince's death, I often dreamed of the night when my mother was buried in the fire. I dreamed that she pushed Vince out and said to him, "Vince, help and take good care of Arya." But in the dream, Vince didn't answer her but said to her, "You take care of it yourself." Then he refused to be saved by her and chose to be buried in the fire himself. When I wake up, I am always frightened. Sadly, I think how good it would be if this were true. If this were true, my mother would not die. And I would have a completely different life. A life without Vince. On second thought, isn't it now? He is gone. So I can't help but raise the corners of my mouth. Pick up hope again. Hope again. Hope again. Hope again. Hope again.